Collin.
And we are ready to bring you X-Men 97, Season 1, Episode 7?
Bright Eyes. Yeah. Which is, what Rogue called Gambit.
Yeah. Because, he would, whenever he'd start lighting up a card, his eyes would glow.
So, Bright Eyes is directly dealing with the aftermath from Episode 5, the attack on Genosha.
Mm-hmm.
And where, Magneto and Gambit were seemingly, taken out and killed. Gambit especially.
Mm-hmm.
I question, especially when we get into this opening scene, whether or not Magneto's dead or if he's just missing.
Oh, I can tell you that they hinted to it, and they told us exactly. So they told us exactly what happened to Magneto and Gambit in Episode 5, if you were paying attention, and it was it's reconfirmed in later in this episode, and I'll explain to it once we get to it. I don't know in our Episode 5 Remember It if I actually called out that I didn't know if Magneto was actually dead or not due to a certain...
No, we talked about it because of just the way it was. I could believe Gambit was dead.
You hear two things. The Master Mold says terminated to Gambit.
Exactly,
and
right.
says neutralized
Neutralized, right.
Says neutralized, and later in this episode we hear neutralized as well to every single X. And we'll get into it.
Anyway, it's a question throughout this episode, but you're confirmed that Gambit's done when you get to his funeral.
And that's how this episode opens.
And it opens at his funeral, and man, Nightcrawler kills it with his witty eulogy with the connect. It all connects back to him being a gambler and kind of his bad side also being the reason why he's so good. At the end of the day, he only saw his sins. He didn't see that his sins actually made him the person he was.
And who was a good person,
a
person who
fought for
the right things and for the people,
right reasons,
for the right things, for the right reasons, for the people, and for his found family here in the X-Men, and obviously his.
It was really cool seeing Nightcrawler do it, because I really do feel like they always had this special connection. But we've seen it earlier. Gambit and Nightcrawler are kind of those characters that everyone loves, but nobody really talks about. You know what I mean? Especially as kids, Nightcrawler and Gambit are those two kind of pushed aside. Especially Nightcrawler, because he until this episode, I think he didn't get an opening scroll.
Last episode.
Yeah,
episode 6 because
right. So because with his swords, right?
Yeah. So episode 6 is when we first see Nightcrawler kind of show up into it. He actually might even show up in he shows up in 6 because.
But they also took out Gambit. And
Magneto in them.
But so that's going on. Jubilee's kind of grumbling about Rogue's not here.
Well, I love the little quick shot we get during the eulogy of Roberto and Jubilee holding hands. I love this relationship between these two, and what
it makes so much sense.
Absolutely,
especially since it hasn't been long since the beginning of X-Men. The series began. For her, I think she was 16 when it started. Yeah. Now she's only 18. 2 years have gone by. And a lot's happened in that time. So to see a new mutant come up and need help is, of course, she's gonna, they're gonna gravitate towards each other.
It's also just the teenage love, coming of age. You're hiding your powers, and at least Jubilee has totally embraced it.
But she could understand why you would.
Yeah. And
but also
the idea of you can work through this.
Yeah, because I have
stuff.
Yeah. So it's great. So anyone that this whole episode's like that.
Yeah.
Where nobody has your back like family.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that later again. So she's pretty pissed, to be honest. She's pissed at Rogue.
Why isn't she here?
Logan quickly is yo, chill.
Whoa.
People grieve in different ways, which is fair.
This is exactly what he says. He's grief's a lonely war. Rogue's got to figure it out on her own.
Yeah. And everyone has their steps, right? Their steps through the
stages
process,
of grief,
and she's angry.
Yeah,
she's very angry. She's skipped to anger, and she's ready to just take down mountains, right?
Because Kurt gives us, Nightcrawler gives us our first kind of fear induction here. It starts out very sad. Obviously, we're laying Gambit to rest and everything, but here he's like, Logan, you were spared what Rogue and I witnessed, there on Genosha. What she battles is not mere grief. Jubilee. This is anger. Yeah. Jubilee is wise to say to be afraid.
Yeah.
And
to be a little angry.
And hearing that from Kurt, Nightcrawler, who is that spiritual, faithful character.
Yeah. No, he's a conscious for sure. He's for sure. But literally, he's a Catholic and stuff in the show. And I don't know if they addressed it in X-Men, but anyway, he is. He's a Catholic, and anyway, he's very spiritual and very much the conscious of the group sometimes. Yeah. Especially when he's around. But anyway, that he's hearing it from him again. That will come up later. Makes it more real probably for Logan. But Logan also is understanding of that anger, getting angry. He's maybe the best at getting
Berserker
angry and then leaving and being alone. No. Logan never does such a thing.
And just going out.
So come on, if you could forgive me for that, let's give her a break. She's goody two shoes usually. You know what I mean? Since she's joined the X-Men, she's been really great. Yeah. So give her a break.
But this is
which I'm going to ask everyone to do throughout this episode.
Yeah, right? And then we get the cut to the military base.
Oh, yeah.
And Rogue is on a mission. Hell have no fury like a woman scorned.
Yeah, right. And it's just it's a good saying because it's true sometimes, man. She lost her man. Yeah. And it's crazy. And she immediately goes to a military base where we'll see Thaddeus Ross, who's pretty confident in his base, but she quickly tears through it and tells him the funniest thing about daddy basically telling her something about
breaking into prison is easier than breaking out.
Exactly.
But Thaddeus Ross is like, this facility is meant to hold the Hulk. She's not gonna be able to get in here.
Maybe you could hold the Hulk in.
Yeah, right.
But you're not going to be able to hold him from getting in. Yeah, so she's trying to figure out where Gyrick and Trask are. She holds them solely accountable for this right now. And to be fair to her, the whole world is on the news. It's saying that and stuff, and she's holding Ross against the wall. Ross says to Rogue, "Thought your kind," which is another thing that comes up over and over in this episode. Just the humans clearly separating mutants as non-human.
Right.
And it's even calling them mutants is crazy because whatever, we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, it's just they're just human beings that happen to have been born with X gene. So Rogue's holding him against the wall, probably thinking about maybe using her powers on him, but she's just you killed those, Sugar.
Yeah.
Now you get me.
Yeah, I thought your kind was the good guys. You killed them, Sugar. Now you got oh man, it's so good.
So I thought your kind were the good guys was great. But that's what I noticed, and then you killed those, Sugar. You get me, and then she just ready to kill, it seems. Which is understandable again. I get Rogue in this episode, and absolutely. And Ross ain't necessarily the best of guys. He does some good things sometimes, but accidentally, I feel like.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't do it on purpose.
So Cyclops here, we cut to him talking to the hologram of the slimiest president. Yeah. He's just such a slime ball who's just referring to the whole situation as a optics. He's talking about it it's gonna affect his polls, and Cyclops is just oh dude, no, not
it's
right now.
If it looked a little more human, you wouldn't be as focused on you'd be more focused on death tolls over polls,
which was great. It was a great line, and it could be used over and over in real life, you know. And he's just basically saying, if we find one more survivor, you're telling us to back off and stop and just go move on. We are still looking for survivors.
Well, the president's it's been over a week and no survivors. You know,
and he's just if we find one more, that'll give the hope needed, for the mutants to attempt to move forward and stuff, and we can't stop looking, you know. And even if we don't find all the survivors, we need to try
rebuild.
And we're gonna rebuild. But it seems like the president wants them to do that immediately, and Cyclops just snaps back at him, and he's like, "No, we're not doing that. death tolls over polls type stuff. And the president kind of reminds / threatens, I think,
yeah,
Cyclops with that classic line that although things seem bad with me, it's going to be worse with a president who's like less sympathetic to mutants, you know? So, or downright even aggressive towards the mutants, which like, dude, what are you? Like, you're doing that. Oh, cool. Like, you're not like outwardly hateful, but you clearly...
You're not sending the missiles right this second, but like...
You clearly don't trust the mutants and are othering them too, and kind of pinning humans against mutants unnecessarily. Right?
Like, all of this like fear that they keep saying that they have, and like Trask has now just started. Everyone feels that Trask has just started a war between humans and mutants, and it's like, no,
they're giving the terrorists like an out. They're giving them like, well, yeah, that makes sense why they did that. When it doesn't actually make, like, they're just hated mutants and wanted to. So they built machines to kill mutants just based purely on hate and ignorance.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not the same. It's just accepting another human as human, even though they have abilities that you don't have.
Right.
So yeah, it's very telling how this goes, and then Cyclops basically just tells him to fuck off and and hangs up on him, which is I totally get Cyclops' anger in these past few episodes. Like, again, when you disagreed, I even understood why he didn't go to see Nathan take off. I just understand his pain, and it's different, and he doesn't know how to handle it.
Well,
and he's always had.
And that's what this whole
someone who I think we need to remind everyone is coming back, but like throughout this episode, you should remember Charles Xavier is coming back, which is like clearly an important thing that needs to happen. The leadership has been fractured. They just seem lost, and hopefully he can come back.
This conversation with Jean and Scott,
and she's great in this scene too, because she's super understanding.
Yeah,
she kind of still shares those memories, right? So, so not only that, she understood Scott had a baby with Madeline, and she's missing, assumed dead at this point, and he doesn't have a connection to her at least anymore. And throughout this episode, you'll see him just keep trying to look for her, like, well, you know, everything's going on, and she's super understanding, and they kind of both agree that it's better they don't wallow right now, and they like come as a unified front and show up to Genosha with all of them ready to work. Yeah, ready to work and ready to get their home basically back in order. Do what the government won't. Yeah, and absolutely do what the government won't. And one of my favorite things is when Beast gets there. You're gonna love this. He walks out. They're looking around. So good. And Beast is like, "Look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping." The affable Mr. Rogers. And God damn it, that's not so awesome. It's such a good statement to tell, especially kids and people who are having a rough time in a moment. Don't just look at the atrocities being committed. Look at the people that are trying to help and or helping actively, and take that hope and kind of run with it instead of like wallowing. Like that's kind of another issue that'll come over with this episode, and I think the X-Men are done wallowing. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely they are. They start making a plan though. Like Cyclops and Jean, Scott and Jean go to the Citadel because they're like, nobody's cleared this. It's still kind of in shambles, but she's ready to use her powers to kind of like search, see if she could find hopefully Madeline or someone else. She can move rocks, but also feel out for other people, like semi-conscious. The sad thing is, we'll get into, she feels too much. Yeah. So Beast though here is talking to Amelia, who's a mutant who turns into mist, and catches Beast up on the goings on, and she just breaks down through all the trauma. Dude, her flashback of triage dies down. Like everyone wants to be a survivor, but nobody thinks about what it takes to be a survivor. Until you see one, and it's the last thing you want to be. Yeah. That she says, and it's like, holy. Yeah. Oh, it's so deep. It's like this show is really good at hitting you with that. We're serious. You know what I mean? Like this ain't we're taking this seriously.
Yeah,
is a trauma that happened to the X-Men, and after this is them dealing with it, and how they deal with it is, Rogue is starting her arc here. You know what I mean? Like, Beast starts talking to her and calming her down when Trish Tilby arrives on a helicopter, and he's glad to see her. Like,
one of my favorite things. No, the first thing that I knew where I disagree, where I knew Hank was not actually happy to see her, because what does Hank do? He closes the curtains to all of the people in the tents first, because no matter what kind of relationship Trish thinks she has with Beast, he is not letting her in.
He's not letting cameras take pictures of just of fodder for her news, and we'll get into when they're having their conversation. But yeah, they go off, and she does to be fair to her, tell the cameras to go, off while Beast and her, have their conversation.
He says, I'm glad, I'm hardened to know that it'll be you who will bear witness to Genosha and what happened here.
Again, it's kind of those
the death of a dream.
Yeah, it's kind of like, again, he's kind of hinting at the well, you're better than most people, but you're still not great. We'll get into it. Yeah, so we cut back to Rogue, who's super, just, you could tell she's ready to take out the world, and she's confronted by Captain America.
Yep. And so, to be fair, we're in the mountains. It's a snowy thing. She descends. We see a cabin. The thing that tells you that it's Captain America is that you see the World War II, or the World War II motorcycle still in operation. So, sorry, it's either Cap or it's Bucky the Winter Soldier
or Red Skull. We knew Cap was coming from commercials and stuff, and we saw the shield, but maybe
we saw the shield and we saw the snow. So this
was that perfect. We knew it was happening in the scene pretty much. But yeah, so even Captain America, he tries to toe the line here, and there's memes about it going around. Basically, he's trying to do the All Lives Matter thing.
Hold on, yes, I do want to say, just to dive into a little bit of his design before we get into his. We'll dive into his whole stance on here. He's an idiot. But this is the same Captain America.
He starts off pretty in the speech, but
so this Captain America is the exact same one that we saw previously in the crossovers for X-Men in the original series, and definitely who shows up in Spider-Man and gets pulled out of the time continuum stuff, with Red Skull and Spider-Man the animated series as well. So it's great. He's got the little wings on his helmet and stuff. This isn't the Chris Evans MCU version. This is the same kind of design.
This is Captain America.
Yeah,
Captain America. And, he's a little more just straight government. It works for the government,
He really is. He throws his cap shield at Rogue's feet, and it's Rogue, stand down. And she's I just want Gyrick,
and to be fair to him, he does he takes her word for it. All right, I'm gonna walk you around here.
And he says, he's you know what? Sure, I'll take you in. The tragedy of Genosha shames us all.
Yeah.
So
he I said, he starts off pretty good.
Yeah. You're all right, well, hey, Cap is seeing some sense here. Maybe he's not the same Cap that we would just come to expect.
Yeah. But he basically, while giving her information about what's going on about Gyrick, he's also just lecturing Rogue.
He's rampaging across the country, dishonors them and stuff.
And she's yeah. Where's Gyrick?
Yeah. Let's see.
What's this?
No. The best thing, skip the hogwash is what she says.
Exactly.
Why is America's top cop all the way out here? And then that's where they go into the cabin and it's really cabin in the woods kind of thing. They go into an elevator. They get down there, and Captain America knows how to hack computers, I guess. And it's I hacked this. I found out
he took classes in the 80s.
Yeah. That Gyrick is in Mexico City, and she's let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. And he's whoa. Yeah. This uniform showed up at Mexico City with you? That sends a message. And she's a message that you stand with mutants, right? And then we start getting in...
That's his All Lives Matter moment.
Yeah. And then
he gets the same, like, gives the same energy of the, like, you. Because let's get to the fact that I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
He's not a mutant. He's a mutate. A lot of people get them confused in Marvel. Mutates are, Deadpool even. Deadpool's not a mutant. He shows up in a lot of X-Men storylines, but he's a mutate, right? He didn't have the X gene. He just turned into that later. Captain America, for instance, is a mutate. Even Hulk is a mutate. They're just people who turned into that later in life. X-Men, or mutants, for lack of a better word, is people who are born with a certain X gene in them. So there is a difference, and they see the difference, and that's why it's even between superheroes and mutants. There's this kind of unspoken difference they see in each other, and when they really should be on each other's side.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, God, man, Captain America, so annoying.
So she just basically uses this, like, he's like, my hands are tied. He's like, oh, she's like, cool, your hands are tied, you don't need this.
Grabs his shield. And
my favorite moment here is when she throws away his toy. She throws it in, like, as deep as she can into this mountain range, and is like, you're not going to need this then, right? Since you're not helping me, you don't got stuff to do. You could do without this. Here you go.
She pops through the roof. Boom. And then throws his shield into the mountains, and he's just like, Captain America.
He humps. Yeah, he humps. He needs to come to Jesus, as they say.
Yeah.
So anyway, back on Genosha, we're with Jubilee and Roberto again.
Yeah.
And this is again cool because we get a good sidebar with these two who are. She's kind of just like, I get why, but like, can't we get over it and maybe like. Can't you see, like, if you die, your parents are gonna find out that you were a mutant anyway? So
on the 5 o'clock news,
yeah. Like, isn't that the worst? Isn't it way better to, like, at least be upfront with them and just deal with it
and let them know who you are from go, so that, like,
come out as a mutant.
Yeah,
basically. Literally come out as a mutant, and instead of being like hidden, hiding who you are, and then that way you can become better as a mutant also, like, use your abilities to help other people. Like, look at you here, you're trying to help, like, why don't you take that a step further? And then we also, he's basically like, fine, will you come with me?
And she's like, of course.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that sounds sick.
I'm not gonna just send you off on your own and be like, bye, dude.
Right.
Like, so that was really great.
Right. And then this is when we cut to Beast and Trish having their conversation, and they're lighting candles by the memorial, and Beast, this is like great because he gets irritated as hell with Trisha, like, almost immediately when she's like, normal people. Again, just putting everyone in these boxes. Normal people won't accept mutants if they feel threatened, she says to him. And he's like, so you basically just said mutants are, they need to beg for your tolerance more. Like, and we're done. And, like, this is basically when he's telling her, like, mutants are done begging for tolerance.
That was our first mistake.
He's like, we should never beg for tolerance. You should just respect us as we are. And tolerance is, and respect comes with either you respect me or you don't, but consequences come with that. And we're done begging for your tolerance. We were going to demand it from now on.
Yeah.
Demand respect.
And she's like, oh no, Hank, that's not what I'm saying. And he's like, but it is what you mean.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. Like the same issue that it was like when you were reporting outside my home. Which also brings back to your point. When my friends were dying. And so, like, this is, so again, Beast will talk with her because he probably believes that she has integrity in reporting, which is, to be fair, sure.
He thought so.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, he saw the coverage.
But seeing her story with Ben tied in with what happened with Genosha, it, like, really left, like, a bad taste in his mouth. And, like, it's very visible here. Goes back to my earlier point of, like, why he was like, I will talk with you, but I'm no longer showing you the behind the curtain stuff anymore. Like that access you have lost. And it was sealed. To be fair, he was doing that to protect his his brethren, the other fallen mutants, and everyone like
True.
being cared, which is rightfully so. They don't need to be exposed and glamorized in that horrific way in any way, shape, or form. Nobody should.
Light your candles. We have
we
still have respect, but we're not
memorials. Like
clearly we're not on the same team.
But what she wanted was to like glamorize that, and I love it. Mm-hmm. He's like, now forgive me, I dare, at the end of this whole conversation then, he's like, now forgive me, I dare not waste any more of your tolerance, Miss Tilby.
Which is great.
And he just walks away.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like, how much tolerance do I have until you turn on me? Mm-hmm. Like, so I might as well back out before I overstep, right? You know, like, it's kind of, it's also kind of being sarcastic and sardonic in a way, and it's great. Well, and again, seeing Beast be like this really shows you
the scientist, the
cool head,
the man of logic,
the guy doing good PR in the episode. In that episode, he's done. He's over it. He's over trying to reach out to people who are trying to push him away. Absolutely. And especially when he's saving them left and right.
Well, like, I also liked what they were talking about at the beginning of it, of like, of when they first talk about like the fear, and if the humans like fear the mutants, then there will be no like tolerance and stuff. And they're talking about like, she's like, well, mutants have taken to the streets, and Beast's response was, riots are the voices of the unheard.
Mm-hmm. Which is another old line.
Like Martin Luther
King line, which is he's great at pulling out lines that are kind of perfect for the moment, and he's the best.
Beast is awesome, like one of the single greatest X-Men.
And apparently they were trying to not have him like too long in the show, and they fought for him. Not in '97, the original.
Oh yeah.
So. Anyway, so we cut back to Genosha, or no, sorry,
Mexico City.
Yeah, we're going to Mexico City now, where this is like, man, it's such a good scene where she's breaking into his Gyrick's prison, quote unquote.
Yeah, and she's like, this ain't no jail, it's a resort.
It's literally a huge mansion that like El Chapo's kids would live in. You know what I mean? Like. And he's just kind of in this room working on his butterfly collection, having a great time. While I love how they do this. Like, you just hear the bangs and her like beating the hell out of people in the background, while she's getting closer and closer until she drops some like soldiers in front of and behind him, while he just kind of casually greets her, knowing like basically I think he knew she was coming.
Yeah, and he's like, I have no idea where Trask is.
Yeah, I don't know why you're here.
What's OZT anyway?
Mm-hmm. He's just being super, like, he's not being forthcoming at all. Mm-hmm. And just, like, very menacing from the beginning. And
well, she's like, the thing about OZT, because so...
Yeah, that was something...
Actually, that's something we should have said. Back at the Captain America cabin, when they were down there was this OZT thing on there. And, it is a telling thing in the comics. It is Operation Zero Tolerance, which leads into the next 3 episodes' titles of Tolerance is Extinction. Mm-hmm. So if you knew that in the comics before, it's from all over, like different like X-Men comics and stuff. So that's it. But what we also get then here in Mexico City is that we find out from Gyrick that the mutants and the X-Men aren't the only people that are making friends in high places. Mm-hmm. This
Cyclops talking to the president, this other thing, this and that and the other. Like
this OZT.
That's also on the other side.
Yeah, the OZT is also making things happen and whatnot. I also love Gyrick being like, Summer's wife probe won't work this time. And she's like, I'm not him, honey. Mm-hmm. Like, that I don't have that sort of problem. And then, like, we get the touch.
Where she's basically going to do what she's done and take memories.
And starts...
And she's like, you're not going to give me the information I need. And I knew that. That's fine.
Yeah.
But here you go. And just, like, chokes. And then they cut back to Genosha, where this is where Jean and Scott enter this damaged building, where Jean has this first psychic attack is just her kind of like feeling all the death and the destruction.
Rogue has the image. She has 2 images that show up. One kind of looks like an apocalypse, and then one looks like the future droid that comes back in the Days of Future Past in the original series. I can't think of what it is in those original episodes. Maybe Nimrod.
Nimrod, yep. That's it.
So it kind of looks like Nimrod and kind of looks like Apocalypse.
That's just showing that like there's bigger powers.
Right.
That's all I like took from this scene. Like he said,
the one that we gotta call it out though. The one that Nimrod is a like very color, like kind of like pink, almost like that Gambit looking color. Mm-hmm. I call it out because it matters for what we see later on in the episode.
Right. So he's it's a future, we saw it before, it's a future Sentinel, blah blah blah. But like, we see something later.
But we see all of this from Rogue sucking out of the stuff of Gyrick, and then there's like an explosion. Then we cut back to the Genoshan Citadel,
and she just has this attack where she feels all this death and destruction around
all these
her,
psychic echoes and stuff.
Yeah, and it's horrible for her, and
she's feeling like the death, the decay,
and
future's lost and stuff.
Scott's hoping they can feel, for survivors, but clearly, like, Madeline is on his mind. So she feels, again, another psychic attack. This one seems a little more serious when it seems like she's connected to another telepath.
Yeah.
And Scott's like, oh my god, Madeline, please.
Yep.
And turns out they're saving her already. It's Emma Frost that apparently was that she was feeling. And Emma Frost found a new power in the moment of stress. As
Beast comments on it, because we see Emma in full diamond form.
Yeah. Which they have not done on this show.
On this show in any way.
Frost, you know what I mean? Like, she's able to turn herself into, like, uncrushable diamond. And it's pretty sweet power to find in a moment where a building falls onto you. But dormant powers are a thing in the X-Men that comes up over and over. I mean, it happens with Superman and other characters all the time.
Everybody who has like a superpower, metahuman, mutant ability across all kind of stories and stuff. Yeah, there's always an evolution of powers. Like, you always get the initial stuff with a few things, and then slowly over time, those things continue to change as you grow and change, evolve, and get older and stuff. Something
just gets triggered in you, and
absolutely. So like,
or you train and get better, but there's moments like that all the time. So we get back to
in the Citadel though. We have one more really beautiful conversation between Jean and Scott, where it finally feels like they kind of bury the hatchet of like all of the oddness and weirdness that's been going on and stuff between them. They kind of seem to like figure out, Scott was like, well, you always used to come back, and Jean was like, no, one of us used to come back.
So this is almost like they're breaking up but being okay with it.
Yeah.
This is almost like they're like gonna still be a team, but like they weren't dating for this long. She didn't have the baby with him. He's clearly not over that. Yeah. She's kind of confused. She kissed Logan. Like, there's a lot going on with both of them. They're just gonna work together, but also move on from that as of right now.
Right. But then we get the Emma Frost, reveal, diamond, everything, and then Morph calls them all back to the Blackbird, and the Blackbird's great. This whole scene is awesome.
Yeah, because he's like, Trask is on the line asking for help, basically. Like, I don't know what's going on, and Trask is like very like nervous, and you could tell like, oh, can you meet me? Can you meet me at Madripoor? I'll tell you everything. Blah blah blah. Please. It seems like he's worried about Rogue probably coming to kill him.
And, well, he's like, when Sinister reached out to me about my DNA, I didn't know that he was coming to do the massacre and everything.
It's like he's saying like Sinister's plans are way worse than what I ever had thought of. Yeah. And if you come to Madripoor, I'll tell you all about what's going on.
Remember, the vending machine is never out of diet. Exactly. But I love Morph's breakdown of this. Like, Trask created Master Mold, i.e., all of this is his fault, i.e., we literally can't trust him at all.
Yeah, and Cyclops is like, I know.
But then we get the... Did you catch the... Wow, this really is Stranger Days. And then we get the Wolverine, because it's a comic cover. It's an homage to the cover. I forget what issue it is. But that is literally Wolverine, like, with the word bubble saying Stranger Days of them being in the Blackbird like that. So that's, like, that was a really great thing that they did.
Yeah, they totally love the comics, you could tell.
Absolutely. So the X-Men team then goes and heads to Madripoor minus Roberto and Jubilee, who... we see next. We see that.
It's funny because this is like so quick of a turn. Like we see the mother, she's like drunk. She's like kind of a drunk, like lush, and she's like kind of having a good time meeting Jubilee. And it seems like Roberto starts telling her, and she's like, "I know. What do you think? Like, we know why the house burned down 4 times. Like, we knew you were a mutant. We just didn't want to talk to you about it because
pirates in the Hamptons. Come on,
exactly right.
Like,
so like she's
Somali pirates in the Hamptons is like
she's
one
like
of the funniest.
Your father and I literally have known for a long time. We were just waiting for you to tell us, which is fair, which is definitely fair. And she even starts thanking Jubilee, but then like quickly the other shoe drops where she's like, but we're gonna go back to hiding all this, right? That's the plan.
Yeah, the trick will be making sure we keep all of this private on the DL. And like they're like, whoa, what?
That's not exactly supportive as it seemed, you know.
Right? And like so like what you do, you know, like who you associate with, it makes the shareholders very, you know, rattled. Anything mutant. And so we can't have them.
Genosha right now. It's the same with the politicians. Like, no, she's an economist. Like, everyone's using Genosha as an excuse to just be horrible.
To be horrible and literally, like, ignore mutants and pretend like they're not there.
And that they should act a certain way.
Yeah.
And basically assimilate.
So like nothing bad happens to them.
It's to the status quo, right?
Because as long as they're okay forever and always, like it's fine.
So like you don't want to shame your family, right? And that's kind of just like, back to square one, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Let's see. We'll see where that storyline goes because Rogue kind of awakes to Nightcrawler here in this point back in Mexico City.
In the
and
street.
This scene's kind of beautiful.
Yeah.
Like the rose petals all over the street falling and they're like, you know, at a memorial.
It's very clear, like it's got to be Halloween time there.
Yeah.
Like it seems like a Dias de los Muertos.
Yeah. Right.
You know, a Day of the Dead kind of thing, which is like Halloween and all of that stuff.
But it's at least an area where they're respecting the dead, and they're having a moment where Rogue wakes up, and they're kind of sitting there, and they remind you here that Rogue and Nightcrawler are, you know, step siblings, considering Rogue was adopted by Mystique, and Mystique is Nightcrawler's mother.
Yeah. So she even says, you know, like, you really pulled the short straw of an adopted sisters department. You know, Gal goes bonkers over losing a boy. But here we go. Being the good brother that he is, actually knowing his sister and understanding, no.
Yeah.
Over 2.
Right. And don't hide that from yourself.
Acknowledge it. You're sad of both about Remy and about Magneto. And it's okay.
Yeah. And if anyone understands, I do. And I'm here for you to not judge you because, you know, this is, again, one of those moments where that's great because she breaks down and is like, you're right. You know, she's crying in his shoulder. And then, you know, Jean comes up, touches her shoulder in this moment. And she turns around and sees the X-Men, her family, just like being there, accepting her, right? Like there's they're all there to like, you know, we got you.
The one thing I want to call out, though, is what he does say after the over 2. He's like, you know, over 2, the confusion between them and your feelings between them is natural. And he's like, but more importantly, you did not cause Gambit or Magneto to die.
Right.
If anything, he's like, you helped them live.
Yeah, loving.
And like, that's what turns her like totally like sobbing into his arms because she's like, you're right. They both mean so much to me. And then that's where Jean, so it's like, the impression is that like almost everybody kind of hears what Kurt, Nightcrawler says in that moment.
Oh, for sure.
And then that's why Jean makes that final, like reach out of, like, you know, like, I get it. Like, I just had this moment with Scott and stuff. But, like, you know, you're still Rogue. You're still part of our team.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You're still
I'm
our
not
family.
judging you, for sure. I don't have to agree with how you're going about this to understand and be there for you. And, again, he said earlier in the episode, like, she's angry. We need to be there for her in a different way, right? So he's doing that for her, and he is, and she finally breaks down, and they're ready to move on. And last we saw her, was taking down Gyrick.
So Gyrick survived that.
Yeah, but like barely. He's on life
he's
support.
He's got the oxygen
basically.
mask and everything going.
Yeah, and this new character who it says on the screen is named Bastion.
Yeah, Bastion. If you were watching subtitles, you don't see him. You just see his hands and a pillow basically go over Gyrick. But if you were watching it with subtitles, which we do, because you got to understand every line that they say, especially when we're trying to take notes.
Yeah, exactly.
So I did the same thing. I was like, Bastion. Okay. And I was like, this is starting to add up a little bit more. And
so again, like we even talked about it when episode 5 happened, about like I even thought that there was someone bigger than Sinister at play. Like Sinister is a big bad, but I don't think he's the true big bad. I think there's more curtains to be opened, and this Bastion character kind of proves that, where he's coming in to the fold basically to take out Gyrick, who is like a big bad in his own sense.
Yeah.
And he kills him and takes him out. Not before, Gyrick says some smart ass stuff about, not being responsible for whatever.
And so then we get to Madripoor. We're in the UN Legion building, and Wolverine, good old reliable, is sniffing around, and he's like, oh, Gyrick put some sleeping gas out here, to knock everybody out. So they're just able to walk right on in. And I love Morph. Morph is like, praise be, diet is always in stock or whatever, is always available.
Exactly.
And then so he pushes the diet, he grabs it, and then the vending machine pushes back, and he's like, A game, bad guys. Secret elevator door behind the vending machine. A game.
Yeah,
Morph's
been awesome this season. He's really as a amorphous character, he's really kind of taken shape.
Yeah.
For better for.
It's funny. I see what you're doing there.
Yeah.
But I also love Morph's like slurp drinking, like the.
But yeah, so they're walking into the building, like seeing what they're gonna do. They're like, this is the building that basically
they get to the top floor or whatever floor they're getting through. And
where she thinks Trask is eventually they're gonna find him, which they do, and he's standing on the edge of this building, like seemingly ready to.
Hold on, they see humanoid sentinels.
Oh right, they do. Yeah,
they see humanoid sentinels, and then they see.
It's like the nervous system, basically. Yeah,
yeah.
It's like very Westworld.
You know what? It looked like Westworld. I actually thought it looked like a smooth version of Iron Man. Instead of Iron Man being like pieced together, it almost looked Silver Surfer-y, being even more honest. But the coloring is different. It's like a navy blue kind of purple, like kind of looking of like a ton of Sentinels kind of set up there. They also see a couple of downed OZT team members there, and like Rogue is even like, these are the same, like that they're wearing the same gear as the people in Mexico City,
right?
And
then what Captain America was showing me and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, it's all she's having a lot of moments here. They what was it?
I also love Morph being like calling Trask here old man or poor man's Oppenheimer.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god, yeah, I forgot about that. That was so good. This poor man's Oppenheimer. Yeah, that was so good. He's so good in this episode. Yeah, so they finally do find him, like I said, at the top of the building, and
right by like the neon letters and stuff. Getting right at the edge there.
Cool looking scene. And he's just beside himself, it seems, and he's ready to jump when they're talking to him, and he's like, Sinister's using my tech to create something much worse, and Rogue, he's about to jump, and Rogue stops him, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, do you got any information for me? Because that'll really help your...
And like, so then like Trask like monologues here as like Rogue is saying this. He's like, I made the Sentinels to protect normal people. Now I have become death. And like when he did this, It just reminded me of the Dean in Community when he's in the VR virtual reality thing, and he's like, Jesus wept.
Yeah.
And like, it was just like, it was just
so
one
over
of
the top.
It was just one of those things that I was just like, oh man, like same energy for sure.
So he's definitely feeling, seemingly feeling guilty in this moment, and she's just like, fine, you want to let go? I'm not willing to hold you anymore.
Yeah,
and she drops him.
Yeah, I'm not holding.
And kind of the arc of this episode, like where's she gonna go with this anger? She does give in and lets Trask fall to his death, basically killing him because she was holding him. Yeah. So they kind of immediately start having a disagreement, right? Like Nightcrawler's like, what's going on here?
What have you done?
Yeah. Logan's like, what do you mean? What has she done?
What we all wanted to do.
Yeah.
And like, Morph is like, is this who we are now?
Yeah. But before they could even like get into it.
Yeah. Well, and like Rogue's like, this maniac killed Remy and thousands of others on Genosha. Like,
she killed my man.
Rotten piece of scum killed a good man. My man. Terminate mutants. Explosion. Like, I don't know if you caught that, but when I was watching it the second time for notes, like, you get a terminate mutants, explosion, and then Trask is back as, like,
a new version of Sentinel.
A new... But you know what? So here's the thing. A new version of a Sentinel, yes, but he has the, like, the metallic veins that Nathan had from Sinister.
Exactly. And it also looks like those character things that were before, though. Right, that we saw earlier. That like this is. I don't think Trask meant for this to happen. That's why he's freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
Sinister is the one who did this, or maybe Trask knew that becoming maybe he knew that on his death he would become this, but I don't know yet. I do know that seemingly Sinister's been doing things that Trask hasn't known about. And he falls to his death, and he comes back as the Sentinel, and seemingly takes out the team for a little bit.
There's a protocol. It's called Prime Sentinel Protocol.
Right.
Activate, terminate mutants.
Mm-hmm. So it was meant to happen this way, and so we get a fight scene between them and
half the building falls. But Jean and Scott save it, and then we get to the streets, and
Morph takes the form of Quicksilver here, which was cool.
Oh, that was so sweet. And it's the awesome, like, baby blue Quicksilver with the white lightning and stuff. Like, the really classic looking, comics looking stuff. Not knocking anything that we've seen in, like, live action movies.
That's hard to do in live action.
For sure. Yeah. But, like, again, it was nice to see it in the animated version like this. Like, they've always done really great jobs of keeping... Like, the costume's really awesome.
So the Sentinel kind of just knocks Morph out real quick. And it takes out...
And it says, mutant neutralized.
Right. Again, we hear this,
Now, this is where I want to bring back my point to episode 5. We hear Gambit, mutant terminated. For Magneto and Leech, we hear mutant neutralized.
Yeah, Omega Threat neutralized. Yeah.
When we're back at when we're at the vigil, we see the lady turning into the parrot with Beast and Trish. Before the parrot goes away, we see the picture of Leech and Leech, and then the warlock leader, who we did see perish and whatnot. Like, they're memorialized.
Right. So anyway, going back to that, it's another throwback to the fact that means something different than terminated. So he's neutralized. He's off to the side. Logan comes up, tries to fight. He's knocked out.
He's neutralized. Beast is neutralized.
Yeah, Beast. Jean. Cyclops takes his shot. He's about to be taken out when he's like his head's being smashed against the ground when Cable comes out and uses this specialized gun on him. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's like an EMP grenade, basically.
Yeah. And he's like, EMPs are the only thing that work on these.
Yeah. We'll only work on these. And so we also get something here, which is neat, that they finally do, is that Jean also, because her and Madeline Pryor are clones.
DNA.
Yeah, and are clones of each other and stuff, that Jean Grey now has that psychic connection to Cable, and it's like, oh my god, you're him. And then Scott Summers sees in Cable that it's Nathan. Mm-hmm. So that's the other thing. If you guys never knew this previously, Cable has always been Nathan Summers, Scott and Madeline Pryor's kid. And so all of that happened in the comics, or virtually like that. You know, obviously the show will take its own like liberties to make the story.
Yeah, even the comics, even the comics take different liberties.
So like, but that is all true. This was great to like finally get that moment of like of Scott being
another
like,
piece of closure for him.
Yeah,
like,
of him
cool.
being like, oh my god, like you
he
survived.
Yeah, and he survived. He's not only survived, he's here to help. Like, okay.
I also like Cable being like, you don't belong in there. You're not her. Get out. And like, he's not super aggressive, but he is a little like he feels weird about it because he understands that like looking.
You're not
at,
actually
like,
my mom.
You're not actually my mom. Despite you looking very much so like her, and you could probably tell me a bunch of stories that like you guys went through, because again, whose memories are whose, who experiences are whose at that point, like all of that has been very wishy-washy.
But Cable's got a scar, Cable's got everything. He's clearly gone through some stuff, and he's not necessarily okay with telepaths just going into his head that's not his mother. So yeah, that's not 100% his mother. So yeah,
we get Cable being like, all right, but Sinister's not working alone. He's working for somebody much worse, and if we don't stop him, there is not a future worth living.
Right.
And cut to Bastion and like Sinister's lair.
Yeah, and Bastion's like connected to the data, basically. This like computer, and they're having this conversation, and Sinister's like trying to downplay him, but Bastion really seems like he's got the upper hand.
Yeah, he's like,
and he even shows Sinister, look, Charles Xavier's still alive.
Like, and like Sinister's like, but wait, they told everybody that he is dead.
Right.
And
it seems the mutants have also been lying. You know, like they've been hiding a secret. So we see that scene, and Bastion really takes his role, I think, as like, no, Sinister, like, I've been using you just as much as you think you've been using me.
You said you wanted to overwhelm them with like all of the tech and the Sentinels and stuff instead of giving them this little taste and like giving them a little like look-see, and like Sinister's like, yeah, you're showing them our hand. I don't really like this at all. We should overwhelm them with power. And like Bastion's just like, no. That is my roadmap. Everything you are saying is wrong. I want you to know this. That is everything you are saying is my roadmap to not do.
Yeah.
To not do it.
It just shows like Sinister's been used, and he didn't even realize it, which says a lot about Bastion, who he also mentions was like a regular old villain at some point, right?
Yeah.
Sinister says like, you were like one of us. You were just some villain. And now you're just like this grander thing, I guess. You know.
And he's like, yes, but I evolved. And none of you have.
He's ready to just end it. It seems like he's ready just to go for extermination. And it's crazy to get a character that's just that evil. That makes Sinister like, ooh, what?
Right. And so after this, you know,
this is my favorite because I call it the evil barbershop. Bastion walks in and it hits the, he walks into this like literally like evil seeming barbershop where
it's like a room out of the first Saw. Basically.
But yeah, he's even got the tools and the barber chair, dentist chair maybe. But yeah, he has somebody we've been speculating about the whole episode, Magneto,
is alive,
and he's using cruel and unusual torture on him, making him listen to the Purple People Eater over and over again. And he basically tells him like, you better just do what I say, or you're going to be trapped in this room for a while, and I might just kill you. He's got the collar on his neck that dampens his powers, and man, it seems he's going through it.
This is why
Magneto is not dead, but he is being tortured.
This is why I have been talking about neutralized and terminated all episode, because when you see this is the kicker of like, oh my gosh, if you go back and watch this, listen to it, and you'll see in episode 5 for sure Gambit gets called terminated, but after the Magneto hit with Leech and stuff, it is a neutralized.
Right. But there's a chance Leech is still alive. There's a chance other people are still alive, and there's a chance they bring other characters back, but for now, definitely Gambit's dead, and Magneto's being actively used by Bastion, who has plans for him that we don't necessarily know about yet. But it seems he wants him to be some kind of face for something.
Well, we're in it now.
Yeah, we're definitely in it now.
I mean, because so he shaves Magneto, and then the episode ends long and short. Like they're listening to the Purple purple people eater, which is, I loved it so
much. Which I could assume is the Baby Shark technique, like we're making him listen to that on repeat.
Yeah.
Like you're a monster, basically.
But now we're in it. Tolerance's Extinction, part 1, 2, and 3, episodes 8, 9, and 10. Like, we're in the last 3 episodes now after, episode 7 here, Bright Eyes. This episode was great. X-Men 97 just continues to kill it week after week and upping the ante. Like, this is, like, the definition of one of those shows that, like, it takes all of its audience seriously. Like, you can have kids watch it. It's great action. Mm-hmm. It's great fun characters that they'll absolutely know.
And although it could be a little
and stuff,
right?
It could be a little
over the top.
Maybe.
No, over the top sometimes, but it treats its audience also with, like you said, it gets a little
with respect.
Yeah,
like,
it gets a little heady and doesn't completely bow down to it being a kids show, because it's really not. The
best way I can truly describe it is like with Batman the Animated Series. It's on that same level of how it took its or Avatar: The Last Airbender. Again, that show is so endearing.
But I would say neither of those shows are as dark as this show's been.
Possibly.
I mean, this show's definitely done more death and destruction, I think, than Batman the Animated Series did in its whole the whole go. It was like dark in its aesthetic, but not in its it was on Cartoon Network compared to this show, which is on streaming. You know what I mean? Yeah.
But either way, X-Men 97 is killing it. This episode was episode 7, Bright Eyes. Mm-hmm. I am Jimmy with the Triple C Collective.
I'm Colin.
And we want to thank you all for joining us. Please like and subscribe to our video and to our channel. We hope you all stay safe. And as always...